Hey Skeeters, we are going to be talking about Standard 5B today, so let's get started. Alright, so Standard 5B states, analyze how authors develop complex yet believable characters in works of fiction through a range of literary devices, including character foils. So the big concept here is developing complex yet believable characters. So when you're writing or reading a story, really the only way that keeps you connected is when you are able to connect yourself with a character. And that is how that's considered believable. Like having somebody in your book or story that your reader can relate to and believe in. Okay? So this is the gist of what you need to know. Analyzing how authors develop complex yet believable characters. So looking a little deeper into the words that they use to do that, looking a little deeper into the purpose of this character being the focal point of the story, understanding and looking at how the fact that they do have human qualities and like you can relate to them, how that affects your understanding of the story. So there's lots of angles that can go, okay? And so what exactly makes a believable character? Okay? For a reader in a text or even in a movie, honestly, it's buy-in. The people reading the story or the viewers watching the movie being able to relate and buy into the story that the character is living. So, for example, we've got Marlin from Finding Nemo. Marlin is a scared dad, okay? Lots of people who took their kids to watch this movie, I think, related to Marlin very well. Mostly because it was a family movie, kid-friendly movie. A lot of young families went and saw it, and I think they could relate a lot to the fear in the movie. The emotion that Marlin felt, that was a connection piece from him to the audience, which makes him believable, makes him a very relatable and believable character, even though he is animated. Then you have Woody. Okay, Woody is your classic, best friend type of story, and makes mistakes. He doesn't always say the right thing and apologizes for it later, but Woody is that friend that everybody can depend on. So buy-in, being able to connect to that, being people who are that friend can connect to those feelings that he felt with frustration with Buzz and things like that. But people on the other end of receiving those emotions can also relate and buy into Woody's character and be like, yeah, I know a Woody. I have a lot of those in my life. So, buy-in, being able to connect to those emotions. Then you have Mike and Sully. Not necessarily the aspect of who they are as people or characters, but like their relationship. Everybody has that one best friend that is so attached to themselves that they don't realize what's going on around them. That was Mike. Sully is the best friend who just encourages and kind of goes on with life and is a rock for other people. And so a lot of people, when they went and saw this movie, could buy into their relationship, buy into their friendship, and be able to connect to their story. Okay? Believable characters. And last, we have Moana, okay? More of a female role of young girls, being able to see her dream and see her want to go do something and kind of like yearn for something more than what she's doing, and kind of wanting to represent her people. So again, a lot of emotions that go into characters when you're creating stories and putting together scripts and movies, and the way that you build those characters allows your viewers and audience to buy in and believe them and connect to their story or not. Kind of relates to the success of the story or not, if we're being honest. So what does that look like in a text? So let's look and see what we can expect as far as questions go. So this is an excerpt or a question from a release STAR test from the story The Namesake. And so in this question it says, read these sentences from paragraph 3. These sentences imply that Miss Lapidus, which I think that's how you say that name. I'm not really sure. But they imply that Miss Lapidus what? Okay, so let's read these sentences. She shakes Ashok's hand and tells him that there are 2 other Indian children at the school, Jayadev Modi in the 3rd grade and Rekha Saxena in 5th. Perhaps the Gangulis know them. Okay, so we're trying to understand something about Miss Lapidus, okay, who is the one doing all these things. So, A, has made assumptions about Gangulis because they are Indian American. Okay, so we've got all these people who are Indian American, 2 other Indian children at the school, okay, and she's assuming that perhaps they know them. So based on what we're reading, that sounds like a valid answer choice, so let's just hold on to it. She wants to reassure the Gangulis that these are weird names, I'm sorry y'all, Gogoi will feel welcome among his Indian classmates. Based on these sentences here, I don't know that we can necessarily conclude that just because of the evidence or lack of evidence that we have. So B, whoops, wow, that's interesting. So B is not the correct answer. Answer choice C, she is familiar with the Indian naming traditions that the Gangulis follow. There's nothing about naming traditions in those 3 sentences, so that is not the correct answer. D, has worried about how the Gangulis will fit into the Indian American community at school. You might be able to take some of that away, but there's no for sure evidence that says, yes, that's the right answer. So, wow, I'm not able to draw lines very well. So A is the right answer, okay? When you're implying things and you're inferencing between passages and things like that, you're drawing conclusions, you cannot assume anything unless you read it. So it's not going to be explicitly there and just say exactly what the answer is going to be, but you have enough evidence to be able to prove it. So we obviously know that she's thinking, well, maybe they'll know them. And so assumptions are made about something. We know that. And then we know that they're Indian American children, or we know that they're Indian children because it says it right there. So A is the safest answer, and it is correct. So there's that question. And then also the questions that are in this category may appear something like this. If it'll come. In paragraph 26, Ashok can best be described as. Okay, so that we're not going to answer that question, but that's also a way to that this question would be asked in what am I trying to say? How it's worded on a test. So you can be on the lookout for that, and you just have to make sure you know what all these words mean. The first step I would take is understanding if they're positive or negative. Okay. If you know that these words are either positive or negative, if you go back and read paragraph 26, you'll quickly be able to identify the purpose of the passage. Is it meaning to show this character as a positive, in a positive light, or not? So hopefully that gave you some exposure to how these questions will be asked for 5B. We empower, we impact, we love. We are Skeeter Nation.